Welcome to the Deep Dive, the Kenya Wanam Notam Movement podcast. We're here to really unpack interesting sources, pull out the main ideas, and give you a kind of shortcut to understanding some important topics.
Exactly.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into insights from the Kenya Wantam Notam movement itself, specifically looking at their call to action for Kenya. It's about understanding their particular vision, how they see the path forward.
That's right. And the main source we're looking at is an article they put out called Kenya's Original Mission Was Clear, We Lost the Plot. Time to Reboot. It's quite reflective, Looks back at independence, where things are now. And then really importantly, it lays out what the KWM sees as a hopeful way forward. We want to get into their specific ideas for hitting that reboot button.
And for you listening, our mission here is to sort of distill those core arguments, the actionable stuff, from this KWM source. We want you to really get a handle on the movement's perspective on rebuilding Kenya, maybe recapturing that original promise. And just to be clear, our job here is simply to convey the ideas in the source material impartially. We're not endorsing any specific viewpoint, just helping you understand what the KWM is putting forward. So yeah, let's dig in.
Okay.
So let's kick things off right at the beginning. The KWM source skirts with this really foundational idea that Kenya's independence wasn't supposed to be about politics as usual.
Right. Not just swapping out leaders or endless power struggles.
Exactly. They argue the real point, the original mission, was actually about making life better for ordinary people. A focus, they seem to suggest, that's kind of gotten lost.
And building on that, they highlight what they interpret as the real enemies identified back then. Not people, but things.
Which were?
Ignorance, poverty, and disease. The KWM source really stresses these were seen as the true adversaries the nation needed to unite against, tackling the big systemic issues, not fighting each other.
Right, an outward focus. And this is where they say things went off track, that the nation kind of lost sight of that purpose.
That's the argument, yes. They suggest the focus shifted, away from those core enemies and turned inward towards political fights, internal divisions, things like that. It's their take on how the country perhaps strayed from its initial path.
Okay, so let's unpack those original enemies one by one, starting with ignorance. The source talks about this unfinished war on ignorance.
It describes that initial post-independence energy, schools popping up, kids flooding in, many for the first time. And education then wasn't just book learning. No, the KWM frames it as crucial for survival. You couldn't easily apply for jobs if you couldn't read or write. And importantly, how could you demand your rights if you didn't understand them? It was seen as absolutely foundational.
That makes sense, but then the KWM makes this quite critical observation about this situation now.
Yes, this paradox. Loads of graduates today, which is good, right?
Yeah.
But they see a major disconnect between having a degree and actually finding meaningful work.
I use that phrase, education without direction doesn't fix much.
Exactly. It implies that while the fight started well, maybe the current system isn't quite connecting the dots between what's taught and what's needed in real life. There's a gap.
So what's the KWM's proposed solution then? How do you fix that?
Well, they put it quite directly. Ideas turn into change when smart people speak up and then act. It really emphasizes their belief in, people taking initiative, both individually and together. Agency is key.
Okay, agency. That connects to the second enemy, doesn't it? Poverty. The source says poverty still laughs loud.
Yeah, it's a stark image. Despite all the years and efforts, they argue it's still incredibly widespread. People struggling with hunger, young folks chasing jobs that, just aren't there.
Even with things like digital money.
Right. Even with technological advances. The KWM argues the fundamental issue of poverty hasn't really shifted for many. The system, in their view, isn't delivering for those most in need.
And why do they think the poor remain so frustrated? What's the core issue, according to the source?
It's pretty clear. They argue people don't want handouts. They want opportunity, a chance to work, to own something, to have dignity.
Dignity. That word again?
Yes. The article mentions things like land grabbing, these sort of phantom job creation schemes, things that fuel frustration. And it asks, quite pointedly, when will we listen?
So the implication is what? That tackling poverty is fundamental.
Absolutely. The source explicitly states fixing poverty could be the key to fixing much of what ails this country. They see it as potentially triggering a whole wave of positive change if addressed properly.
Okay. So ignorance, poverty. That brings us to the third enemy,
Yeah.
health. The KWM source calls the health system still the weakest link.
And the picture they paint is quite concerning. Clinics without basic medicines, stories of having to pay bribes in hospitals, ambulances arriving too late,
Okay.
or not at all.
These are things that hit the most vulnerable hardest, obviously.
Exactly. And the source shares this really heartbreaking detail.
Exactly.
That people are still dying from things that are completely treatable, like typhoid, malaria, complications in childbirth.
Not because treatments don't exist.
Precisely. But because access is the problem. The source says access to healthcare is often treated like a luxury. It draws this contrast, you know. The wealthy might get care while others are just left to pray, as they put it. Not a recipe for a healthy nation, they argue.
Yeah. Which leads into another really powerful point the KWM makes. Kenyans were told to fight the big three, not each other.
Yes. They really hammer this home. The original idea, the spirit of independence, wasn't about tribe versus tribe. It was about bridging that gap, rich and poor, lifting everyone.
So tribalism as a weapon, that wasn't part of the plan in their view.
Not at all. They're very clear on that.
But they do make a distinction, right, between culture and weaponized tribalism.
A crucial one. They say embracing your culture, your identity, that's fine, that's good. But the warning is, tribes shouldn't be weaponized.
And they give examples.
Yeah, really down-to-earth examples like, if you need an urgent blood transfusion, does the tribe of the donor matter? If your crops fail and you're facing hunger, does tribe help? If your child needs schooling?
Well, of course not.
Right. So the KWM's point is, if tribe is irrelevant in these life and death, basic human needs situations, why should it dominate politics or how we interact as a society?
It's a compelling argument. So, given all this history, these challenges, how does the KWM suggest people actually act? Where does change begin?
Well, interestingly, it starts with technology people already use every day, like WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal.
Okay. How are those often just for, chatting and memes?
That's exactly their point. They ask, what are these tools really for? If it's just gossip, they see it as a huge missed opportunity. The KWM urges people to use these platforms for real change.
Real change, like what specifically?
Like actually discussing issues, voting on ideas within groups, coordinating actions, and they stress starting small. In your neighborhood group, your chama, your youth club, wherever you are.
Start small.
Yeah, and their core belief here is pretty striking. Change doesn't need money, it needs determination. It's about using the tools you have and tapping into that collective will.
Okay, so determination, using existing tools, and the power of conversation itself.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes talk is the weapon, ideas are the ammo.
Explain that a bit more.
They argue that big ideas, real solutions, they don't just appear out of nowhere. They come from people talking honestly, sometimes uncomfortably, about problems.
So the process is identify, speak up, share.
Identify the problem, speak up about it, share the idea, let others refine it, and then empower people to actually do something. Talk, refine, act. That's the cycle they propose. Change starts with words.
And it doesn't require waiting for some big leader to emerge.
Not at all. That leads to another key KWM message. Don't wait for a hero, start with 5 friends.
5 friends.
Yeah. They remind us that huge movements often start really small, in living rooms, around a table at a kiosk, during lunch breaks. With just a few determined people, you can brainstorm, plan, build something real. It's about empowering everyone to be a leader, not just waiting for one.
Okay, so this focus on individual agency, collective action, using digital tools, this all seems to lead directly to their own platform, right?
Exactly. This brings us right to the heart of their proposal. Quantum Notum is the place to begin.
And how do they describe Quantum Notum? What makes it different?
They describe it as a specific online space, built deliberately without insults or tribal divisions. The focus is purely on action. You post an idea for change.
Like fixing a local issue or something bigger.
Anything,
Yeah.
Big or small.
Yeah.
You post it, other people respond, they add to it, maybe critique it constructively, and you build together towards a solution. It's meant to be practical, tangible engagement.
So for anyone listening who feels this resonates, who wants to try this approach,
The KWM invites you directly. Their call to action is, visit www.onehamnotam.com, create an account, start sharing your ideas that you think can help change your village, your city, the whole nation. It's an open door, basically.
an open door to be part of the solution as they see it. Now, online spaces, they can be noisy, right? Full of negativity. How does the KWM suggest people handle that?
Yeah, they address that head on. The advice is pretty blunt. Abuse and hate online are just noise cut through it.
Just ignore it, don't engage.
Pretty much. Ignore the trolls, don't feed the hate.
Yeah.
Instead, consciously use your words to organize, to build, to focus on constructive action. Don't get sidetracked by the negativity.
And they apply that to their own platform, too.
Very clearly, they state, Wantam Notam won't allow hate come clean or don't come at all. It sets a clear expectation for the kind of interaction they want to foster, productive, unifying, focused on solutions.
Okay, so bringing it all together, we get to this really powerful concluding thought from the KWM source.
Really is.
You're Kenyan. That means you're already involved. What do they mean by that?
It's this idea that there's no opting out, no neutral ground. Every action you take, or even the actions you don't take, you're in action. It all shapes the country's direction. Being Kenyan, in their view, automatically means you have a stake and therefore a role to play.
So silence isn't neutral, it actually allows things to stagnate.
That's exactly the point the source makes. Silence breeds stagnation, but action drives change. So, if you're tired of how things are, their message is simple. Stop waiting.
Start doing.
Start doing. Start a group, share an idea, read what others are saying, engage. The KWM finishes by saying, quite powerfully, that Kenya needs your voice. Every single voice matters in this reboot they envision.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How different could things be if that focus really shifted back to those original enemies, ignorance, poverty, disease, tackled through this kind of community-led collective action? Could it really reshape the whole narrative?
It's a compelling vision. And what stands out from the KWM source is that belief in the power of ideas, the power of people working together. That, they argue, is the real engine for change, more so perhaps than just waiting for top-down directives.
A really powerful thought to end on. So if you're feeling inspired, if you're ready to add your voice and your ideas to that engine, the KWM's invitation stands. Join Wantam Notam today. Let's explore how we might rebuild the real Kenya together. Visit www.wantamnotam.com, create your account, and start sharing those ideas that could help change your village, your city, and maybe even the nation.
It starts there.
Thank you for listening to the Kenya Wantam Notam Movement KWM podcast.